All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Laser Brains, the podcast that reviews every single movie ever made. I'm your co-host Mike Gallows, joined by
every movie ever made.
That's right, that's our goal.
I'm Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Princess Mononoke.
That's right, and we're also joined by Meteor co-owner Champ Ian.
Hi, hello.
Oh, thanks for having us, Ian.
Hey.
Good
What's going
times,
on?
good times. And guess what? We also have a guest. Would you like to introduce our guest here?
Yes, this is Emily. Emily is the host of Toast Open Mic Poetry at Fog Lounge.
Awesome.
And she confessed that she is a Miyazaki fan. So I
Nice.
figured join the podcast.
Guilty.
So
Well,
you've
welcome.
seen this movie before then?
Yeah, I told Ian earlier, fourth time?
Fourth time. Okay.
Third?
First time for me, Ian.
First time for me.
Okay, Josh.
I've seen it a couple times, maybe three, four
Okay.
times, but it's been a while now. So it was.
This is interesting for us that none of us are really hardcore experts on this movie. There's
True.
usually someone up here that, I've seen it 12,000
Right,
times.
yeah.
Well, okay, so Josh, but you can give for someone who doesn't know anything about what's the background of this film and the significance of this film.
Well, it's
All right, I can go to Emily. Should I go to Emily? Emily, do you know
the significance of the
this
film. I mean, like, you want to talk about like the themes and
well,
stuff
let's,
like that,
no.
or
I'm talking about the status. Like, okay, so let's talk about the
okay.
director. Do you know anything about the director?
Well, I know the budget.
Oh, okay,
okay.
that's even more specific
Oh,
than I was looking
yeah,
for. But that's
like,
great. Okay.
I pulled up IMDb trivia, which is like my favorite.
Okay.
Like to deep dive and find fun facts, and this movie had a lot. But interestingly enough, it was the highest money they've spent on an
Okay.
animation film at the time, 1999.
Okay.
Records were blown.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Josh, we've done other films by this director
Yeah, so this
before.
is a Studio Ghibli film by Hayao Miyazaki.
Okay.
Miyazaki is kind of like the guy
Yes.
in terms of Japanese anime, and still to this day he's making
Sure.
films, even though every year he
How old is he now?
announces his retirement.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Like every year he announces his retirement. He is getting up there. I assume he's in his at least 70s.
And how many films total has he made? Does anyone know?
A lot. I can look that up real quick
Okay.
too. But
And do you know the budget, Emily? Do you remember the number?
I could pull it up. Is that a sin?
No, you can pull it up. We look at our phones, and people enjoy looking at our phones.
Yeah.
And while you're looking at your phone, we can distract the audience by talking
Yeah.
about something else. If you want.
kind of
Yeah.
what this show's all about is
Yeah,
just
it's pretty
us
much
looking
it.
at our phones.
It's sleight of hand. The whole show.
He was born in 41, so
he's getting up there.
80-ish.
Okay, but I gotta say this could be my favorite one so far that we've seen.
It's fantastic.
Which
Yeah.
have you seen?
I've seen the ones that you've shown here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think this could be, I don't know. I mean, I have a soft spot for all of them in a different way, but this one was a little bit different. I felt like, I don't know, maybe more mythological based.
Certainly more mythological, and
Yeah.
it's a bit of a heavier subject matter
Right.
than
Oh, yeah.
some of his other films. Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. They seem to be more about personal growth, personal stories.
Sure.
As pertains specifically to the protagonist.
Sure.
This was about more of an ethos. This was about man versus nature more than
Yes.
it was about one person's personal story arc.
and a lot of man versus self in this movie as well. That's kind of like a huge underlying message in this movie. Like I feel like man versus nature is the obvious one, and then man versus self is kind of this hidden underneath one that is throughout the movie, like the demon that possesses the main character, and it's kind of the personification of hate and revenge, and finding that balance and dealing with it. At the beginning of the movie, there's this quote that he says that kind of like explains that, and it's what he's looking for is to see with unblinded eyes for hate. And later on in the movie, we actually meet this boar god who is blind.
Right.
but kind of not really at times. Like when we're first introduced to him, he's kind of climbing up this big cliff, and there's some guys spying on him, and he turns and looks directly at them, and they say, he's looking at us, and they run. And he's like fueled by this hate for humans that he can see. So it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's really great film. A lot of symbolism.
Is it based on specific mythology? Does anyone know, or is it just
a lot of it is real mythology, but a lot of it is Miyazaki kind of. Yeah.
I could give fun fact about the title.
Sure.
So Princess Mononoke, like Mononoke means like angry spirit, like vengeful spirit. So a spirit who's like often destructive. But like these spirits are often like passionate and have like a loud voice because they really have to in this movie with the violent themes, I think, or the imagery and the actions that humans like take in that film. They have to like really meet it. And like this film's like about life and death and like destruction and creation and all of that. But it's the yokai is also like a Japanese spirit, which is like what a Mononoke is if we take another step back. Like so like when we say like Princess Mononoke, we're referring to like the main character, like the woman, like Sen, or what's her name?
Sen, yeah.
Sen, and then Ash is how I call like the boy. But yeah, so the yokai is like a Japanese folklore spirits, and like they believe like the longer like believing in it like keeps its life force, and there's been a lot of like loss of knowledge within their like understanding of like the spirits. There's so I think it's also kind of like hinting at that almost.
Yeah, I think that the little forest spirits, the Kanata, they kind of represent that. Like they show up when the forest spirit is there, and the forest is strong and healthy, and we see that there's thousands of them as this giant like walking forest monster is like going through. They all pop out of the trees, and then by the end of the movie, again spoiler, once that forest dies and the head is shot off, they all start kind of falling from the trees, and it kind of, you see that they're all disappearing and dying. So yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, this movie also has like a very bittersweet ending too. There's a lot of like there's a lot of themes in this movie about life and death as well. And the spirit of, oh my god, the forest spirit does die at the end of this movie. So do all of the other animal gods.
Right.
And even the people that we're kind of led to believe are the bad guys aren't really straightforward bad guys either. Lady Eboshi, like she's not really a villain, you know, like she's the things that she's doing is not great. She is the one that killed the forest spirit, but we're also shown that like she's doing these things to protect her people and all of the great things that she's done for her village, bringing the like hundreds of women from these brothels and saving them and putting them to work in the place and giving them a place to live and food,
caring for people with leprosy.
Exactly. So we see that she's not doing these things because she's evil or she wants to just kill the forest. She's doing this to survive.
Well, it's almost very, I don't want to say like Darwinian, but it's like everyone's just fighting for territory, it seems. And like when you see like the almost like the wolves and the gorilla kind of gods, whatever they are, it seems very primal. Like everyone's just, I felt like it was very savage and primal and territorial at that point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on where there's a lot of I don't want to say body horror, but it is like a lot of horrific things happening with
that demon.
And decapitations and dismemberment and the worm things on it was just a lot of that. It just feels like very Darwinian. Like it's just life fighting for life. You know what I mean?
And it goes back to that quote of like seeing with unblinded eyes for hate. They're not doing these things to be evil.
Right.
Like she thinks that she's doing the right thing. So do the forest gods. The boar thinks that this is the right thing to do, is leading his people into battle and taking out the humans. Like he's not doing it just out of hate. The hate is coming from this need to help his people. So like it really is kind of showing that there's good and evil. Even the forest spirit, when we first see it, it's this giant thing, and it slowly shrinks down into this deer with almost a human face. And as it's walking through the forest, we see a close-up of its foot, and it slams down, and all of these plants grow from the step. And then as it lifts its foot, all of those plants that just grew die, and they brown and they wither, and they all like turn to ash. So the forest spirit itself is also death. Like it's not just life and birth, and it's Mother Nature, right?
Yeah, birth and decay, birth and death and decay,
and
right?
it's mirrored with the humans. It is just kind of like their nature. It's Mother Nature. It's what they need to do to survive, and it's finding this balance within you, and that's kind of shown with Ash's Ashitaka, his burn almost that he has, and how it's slowly growing within him, and he's constantly having to like physically fight back that personification of revenge and hate.
I just thought of something with this conversation, that the theme of like life and death, but like how much of an act it was for the humans to give back the head, like actually giving back life, which is something that the spirits thought that like humans don't do anymore, or at least were spiteful with their previous acts. So that kind of just like made that connection. Like,
and Jigo didn't even like really do it. Like he was kind of forced to at the end to give it up. No, this movie is extremely good. I think at the time it was like the highest grossing movie in Japan, not just
the anime?
animated.
Really?
And it's still one of the highest, I think.
And how did it do
House
in
Moving
the
Castle
States?
as well. I don't
North
know.
America.
I don't think it had like a wide release necessarily here. It did kind of grow in popularity. A lot of these movies did with the English translation versions.
Sure.
Disney has a deal with them, or did. I don't know if they still do, where they hired voice actors to kind of dub over.
Okay. Why didn't we watch that version, Ian? With Tom Cruise doing
No, we're team sub
Billy Bob
here.
Thornton
we
was in
don't
it.
Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, he was.
we don't do dubs here at Meteor.
No?
We've been through this
Oh.
before.
Yeah. And I'm
authentic.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. If you can't read a subtitle, then go watch it at home.
Yeah.
That's what Netflix is for.
Yep.
that's actually a good transition. At the time, the translations weren't as good as the
Subtitles?
originals. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there were these executives at the time that said that a North American audience can't sit through a movie if there is not music playing in the background every 3 to 5 minutes. And in this version, there are long periods where it's just like the sounds of the forest,
Yes, I noticed that, yeah.
or like the breathing of the animals. Like
Sure.
you're really kind of like left in this world, and it really helps kind of create this atmosphere. And in the English versions, they had to compose like another hour worth of music to add it in.
Are you serious?
The original composer had
That's
to.
unfortunate.
And the music in this movie too is also breathtaking. Like the theme is so iconic, and
This is some of the best music that I think that we've seen on a film here. But even like, no matter how good the music is, sometimes it needs to get out of the way. Sometimes the atmosphere requires total silence. And those scenes when the forest god was just walking quietly on water, and the entire soundtrack goes completely quiet. There's no forest sound effects. There's nothing. That's chilling. And you can't recreate that with sound. You can only recreate it with silence.
You know, I think one of my biggest criticisms of Hollywood films is that impulse to, like, you know, if two characters are talking, to have that like sad piano music on the soundtrack just to tell you it's important or tell you it's sad or whatever. It drives me crazy.
Give your audience a little credit.
Yeah, exactly. Just let them feel what they want to feel. And so that's really disappointing to know that for the American version that they overdubbed extra music. That drives me crazy.
Especially with like an animated project, because you're physically putting the emotions you want the audience to feel on the characters' faces, right? Like it's so deliberate, absolutely everything, where when it's acting, you can have somebody that's not necessarily conveying what they're supposed to be and it doesn't work. In animation, it's exactly the director's vision, for the most part,
that's a great
right?
point. Yeah.
So I think it particularly works here, not having the soundtrack all the time and kind of letting us live in this world. Yeah.
So okay, so why have you? So you've seen this movie 4 times, you said. So why do you keep going back to it? Do you think?
It's one of my favorite from Studio Ghibli, because of its like spirit. Like this movie's got spirit. This movie's got like handwritten or hand drawn. Like the animation itself is just so like thinking about animating from above and people and animals moving.
It's
like,
a lot. Yeah.
It is a lot. And also like I'm so glad we saw it with reading the subtitles, because I feel like I got more out of it. And it was like poetry. Like some of the lyrics or like just the reading the words is just, I don't know. And I was just immersed, and that's why I keep going back. The spirit, I just keep getting drawn to it. It's calling to me.
Personally, I'll never stop loving 2D animation, hand-drawn animation. I just love it. There's a certain, I mean, it's an abstraction. It's not real, and I'll always love that. And that's also why I love comic books, like the black lines, the bright colors. The movement doesn't have to be 100% real. The textures don't have to be real. It's just, I don't know.
You can convey things that you could never convey in live action. You can create worlds you could never create. And that, like, I'm talking CGI as well. You can't create these things and have them look real. Yeah. Because if they look real, the magic is gone.
Right.
There's something fantastic about watching something like this. And there's literally no way that it'll translate.
I agree. Like those little, what are they, like the forest demons, the white guys with the... Okay, if those were done in CGI, then they'd have like a 3D texture. They'd be all shaded, and the way that their heads rotate and bounce around, they would figure out a way to do it more realistically and more fluid. And the way it's done here, it's more dreamlike, right? Yeah. It's what you would see in your dreams, and it's something that would scare you or haunt you. But if it was, you don't get scared by CGI. No one dreams of CGI. No. You dream of this.
Yeah. If that was CGI, I would not remember it.
Exactly.
Years from now, I would not remember it. But those little forest things, those are going to be in my brain. They live here now.
Yeah.
Because there's something about them that is completely different than anything else. And again, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Any other way.
I think a part of that too is like trying to make something feel real life. We can pick up on the fact that it's not so easily, like our brains are hardwired to like pick up when something's fake.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you have something like this and it's just like right from the start, you're building this world this way, it's in our brains automatically kind of just clicks for us, and we're able to dive in and feel this like
our brain knows that nobody's trying to trick us.
Yeah.
Our brain realizes that we're being told a story. And this
Great
is not
point.
real, but lock in and absorb it.
Yeah, like
great point.
At no point in this movie am I also thinking like these are drawings.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
that's a good point
too.
Yeah.
When all of these things are happening, when characters are dying or having a conversation, you're not thinking in your head that it's like a bunch of drawings and why do I care about this? It's in the moment. It's so real and so believable, and you're just in the story.
That's something I noticed with comic books, is that there's a weird mindset of people that think that the more realistic they are, the better it is. But I actually starts to notice the opposite, that the more abstract the art is, the more I'm absorbed in the story. It's weird. It's like you're looking at art that's not realistic. The proportions are all wrong. You know, the perspectives are all wrong. But because I used to think it was in spite of it. Now I realize it's because of it. It's like you're more emotional, you're more involved, and you feel it more. And I think that applies to animation too.
I want to reference one particular scene. I'm going to reference this because I think it's the one scene that shows up twice, very briefly, in this film. It's where Sen is sucking the blood out of her wolf, and she just spits blood and then wipes her face.
Yeah.
And she just has this look on her face like she's pissed and she's got a job to do. But you can feel it viscerally. You know exactly what she's thinking. You can't do that. If you were to do that in live action, it wouldn't come off as well. No. You would not feel it as profoundly as you feel it watching it in animation.
Well, it goes back to what Josh said about if you're doing live action, you're depending on the performance of the actor, the lighting, the take, the other actor, the animal, blah, blah, blah. But in this, everything is controlled by the director or the animators, right? So even if you don't like it, you can go back and fix it. You can whatever. But yeah, like it's being controlled usually by one voice, right?
Right.
By one hand.
Well, even just the scene of the beginning scene where the first board god is already in control or already taken over by the demon. That scene alone took them the better part of 2 years to animate. Just the
Wow.
beast. So if you think about it like that, like how quickly of a turnaround would it be for them to shoot that? And then even on top of that, like the CGI, like today CGI is like turned around so quickly.
Sure.
Like there's just such a high demand for CGI that it doesn't have the time to kind of like develop and turn into something. And like to have 2 years to work on a single scene to perfect it is crazy.
Well, I think also, I mean, like this goes back to like say Star Wars. There was a reason they had to release them every 3 years. It's because they took so long to make back then, right? But like, okay, so if that one scene took 2 years, how long did the whole movie take? Do you know?
Probably about 3 years in total.
Okay,
right?
So they had different teams working on different scenes.
Yeah, so like the few animators that were working on that scene took the whole production essentially to work on just the demon.
And I believe it.
Yeah.
Looking at that scene, I believe it. Those infinite numbers of little worms crawling all over that boar.
It was worth it, right?
It was worth it, and it was just so creepy.
And this movie came out in 1997. So at this point, there's already been a couple of 3D animated movies. There's Toy Story and Bug's Life, and 3D animation has kind of been incorporated in 2D quite a bit.
Yeah. There was a little bit of 3D in there, right? Like CGI a little bit.
A little bit. So they could have done it on the Beast, and they didn't. That's all hand drawn.
Okay.
The times where they do use 3D animation, they use it almost as a tool to help them with the 3D animation, 2D animation. So that scene that you were talking about, where she's kind of like sucking the poison out of the wolf and spitting the blood, when she wipes her face, the smear of blood is 3D. So that way, as she's moving her face around, they don't have to track the texture in 2D and keep it consistent. They were able to essentially they animated her in 2D, and then they kind of recreated her in 3D with the texture of the blood, and they matched the animation in 3D, and they just rendered out the blood and they layered that over top of the 2D animation.
Yeah.
So things like that. They kind
so
of
it's almost like that sounds as though it would be more work than just animating the blood in her face, but for a better result.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe at the time for sure. I think today you could do it pretty darn easily, but at the time in 97 it's pretty early technology. I
still prefer that early era, like for example in Beauty and the Beast, Disney's original, when I think they used
Tales as Old as Time.
Well, I think they used the CGI camera to spin them around when they were dancing.
Yeah, the whole set.
Right.
The ballroom.
Yes.
When they're doing the Tales as Old as Time, it's a 3D set, and they'd use the 3D camera, and then they kind of match the 2D animation for the 3D environment that they're in.
Yeah, it still looked good to me, you know, like, and you can tell that I kind of figured that was happening, but I still would prefer the 2D characters on top of that, right?
Yeah,
or
for sure.
Integrated into that.
Yeah.
Use all the tools at your disposal.
Yeah.
But use them appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should talk about characters, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So Josh, you got your Wikipedia.
So we've
there?
got our main character,
IMDb page.
Ashitaka.
Okay.
Yeah, he is kind of just this. He will not let it go. Like he's so like neutral throughout the whole movie. It's crazy. He has like one thing in mind, and then a god will come up to him and be like, "No, you've got it all wrong." And he never like is combative about it. He's like, "All right, I was wrong. Like, what are we gonna do now to fix it?" Like everything, he's this neutral force that it kind of is trying to see both sides. Lady Eboshi just killed the forest spirit, and still he goes and saves her, drags her through the water, and then is like carrying her to safety. Like it's so.
So you think he has like an underlying? What do you think his underlying motivation is, or his underlying?
I think fighting off the hate, right? Like he physically. We can see has hate inside of him, and we see it kind of like growing throughout the movie, and it's really him fighting that, both in himself physically, as we can kind of see him like hitting it or punching it or like holding his hand back when he's trying to like pull out the sword, or if it's with other people kind of like, you know, fighting against each other and stepping in and stopping that hate in the town. Eboshi and San are fighting each other, and he steps in and stops them because he didn't want San. Because if San won and killed Eboshi, Eboshi's men would have killed her, and then vice versa. Like he didn't want her to die, so he stepped in and stopped them, and by doing so, almost died himself. Like he was shot, and on the getaway he collapses, and he has to gain his life back. He is this just, I don't know. He's an interesting character.
I struggled with Ashitaka's character a little bit.
Okay.
Struggled with this character a little bit. Specifically because of things that are going on in the world right now. And some conversations that I had today with some people on the internet.
Oh, no.
Where I was seeing in Ashitaka the person who was arguing with me on the internet that Elon Musk should be given a pass for doing
giving a
Nazi gestures.
Yes.
Because we don't know the entire context and we don't know what he was thinking and so on and so
love
forth.
That. Yeah.
And no, sometimes you have to take a stand.
Mm-hmm.
And at some points I was watching this movie thinking, Ashitaka, you should take a stand here and maybe try and prevent the forest spirit from being murdered. Mm-hmm. Because you could have stopped that. Mm-hmm. You could have prevented the forest from being destroyed. But
what would you have done?
Oh, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done. That's why I'm saying that I struggled with the character a little bit. Because at the end, like, I understand his point of view because there were no real villains in this film. Like the villains are more conceptual than anything else.
Yeah. I think that he couldn't have just killed like Eboshi, for example.
No.
Because we see her introducing him to like her side, right? And we don't see her as a villain. So like I don't know what he would do. And I don't know, he doesn't have a problem killing people.
No.
We see him many times.
He kind of does. At the beginning when
he doesn't like to do it.
He's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I killed two people."
He's killed
I'm bummed out about
multiple people by decapitating them by shooting them in the head with an arrow.
Which were great little scenes too.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that coming, and like,
cutting
his
off
head just flew
a bunch
right
of
off.
hands. Yeah. So yeah, I do get what you're saying. There is a point where you need to kind of draw a line in the sand.
And again, I'm not saying that I have any answers. I'm just saying that I was watching him and I was thinking of this frustrating conversation that I had earlier.
Do you think there's an underlying feeling that he has to learn something, like about that he doesn't know he doesn't know the right thing to do, so he's kind of just, I don't want to say going along with what's happening, but kind of just absorbing everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Because,
It's almost like
and trust me, I need to watch this movie again. I've only seen it once.
Same.
But the feeling I got from this movie, I think one of the key things that's missing from a lot of movies that try to deal with magic, because I don't think magic is real, but I think one way you can deal with magic is treating magic like nature. Because one thing that humans have to, I think, accept is they can't control nature. And I think in this movie, I felt like there was a feeling that there was a greater world and a greater, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's things going on that we can never understand, never control. That was the feeling I got. That
The Force.
kind of like that. Yeah, right. I think that it's kind of like that. It's like that feeling that like there's something going on that I can't quite control or grasp or understand or manipulate, but I'm just getting a little peek at it. That's what I felt like this movie was. So maybe that
And
could have been.
everyone's motivations were kind of predicated on a limited understanding of
Right,
what was
yeah.
going on. Everyone was acting based on not having the entire picture.
There you go.
Except for Ashtaka, who was trying to see the big picture. But
Yeah.
in doing so, ended up destroying the forest.
Yeah, he's trying to find balance in it all. And
So the Force.
yeah.
You're the chosen one.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you argue the Forest had to be reborn again? Like the symbolism of it, like dying and coming back to life. It's like a new age.
I don't know if it was necessarily it had to. I feel like it's a consequence of man, right? Like it's
Or is it a consequence of nature, just things dying and being reborn?
sure. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think it's also like a cautionary tale too, in that sense, where it's like this is what I think it's kind of showing you what the world used to be like, and all of these gods used to live on Earth and flourish, and because of man, they're all dying, and the forest is still dying, and if we
Right.
don't take care of it, then it's gone. So I think you're right, and it is that, and like showing that like it's not over, right? Like just because these forests are dying doesn't mean they're dead forever and they're gone forever. We can still reverse these things, and with death comes life. But I think that also to all of these things dying, it didn't have to happen. You know, I
Yeah.
don't think that they.
It's not inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's at least two more characters we have to talk about,
Sure.
right?
Okay. You want to talk about San?
Sure.
Okay. Ian.
I think we're going to let Emily go first on this one.
Okay.
Oh. Well, the interesting backstory of how they grew up and their identity and how they identify as wolf.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a lot of trauma as well from like humans. Like they've also felt as betrayed as the spirits. And so like I think there was lore that wasn't mentioned, but like a pup from their family was also like in a kerfuffle, and somehow that's like maybe the skin of the dead puppy, which is like
interesting.
a maybe not type of situation. But yeah, interesting backstory. You guys should expand on this, so
Yeah.
go ahead, Ian.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so it was an interesting backstory, very compelling character, and very mysterious right at the beginning. I love that we were only seeing glimpses, and she's moving very quickly. We can't really get a good bead on who this person is. We just see the wolves at first, and this wolf happens to have a little wolf riding on its back, and it takes us some time to realize that this is actually a person. Sorry, I don't know. It's
No.
Yeah, I honestly, unfortunately, with all these films, I feel like I have to see them more than once to add anything.
Yeah.
I don't have anything interesting to say. Sorry, guys.
I think because the wolf god is kind of not necessarily fully fueled by hate. I think that she's a good kind of stand-in for the nature side of things, right? Like
Sure.
she's kind of like fueled by nature dying.
Sure.
And we could have just seen that from the like God's perspectives, and we do see that with the boars, but I think seeing it from her and from a human perspective kind of gives us new context. So even her at the beginning, she like is not really for Takashi. She wants to kill the Iron Clan's whole village. She wants to kill the leader, and then slowly by the end of it, she kind of learns to accept them a little bit. But even at the end, though, I guess she doesn't really like forgive them, but she understands that it's kind of like, again, this balance. Like, I'm gonna let them go live their lives, and I'm gonna go back to the forest and
Right.
And I think it's interesting too that she, right from the outset, she has this compassionate streak to her, right? She's just killed a bunch of people, but then Ashitaka finds her and announces, "Hey, I'm here. I'm from this faraway land. I'm coming to find out what's going on." And she just looks at him and says, "Go away." But she doesn't try and kill him.
Yeah.
She lets him go. She recognizes who he is and what he's doing, but she's like, "Nah, I got shit to do. Get out of here."
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. Who else do you want to talk about? Eboshi?
Yeah, that's the last character.
Lady
I think
Eboshi,
to talk
yeah.
about, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think that she's definitely the most compelling character. Like, she has the most depth to her. We are kind of led to believe that she might be the villain. And then, yeah, we see this good side and the reason that she does this. She does believe in these gods and knows that they're powerful, but she kind of doesn't care because she's doing things for her people, right? And she's kind of seen the horrors of like what can happen to her people and protecting them from other humans or from sickness in nature with the lepers. They don't really have a choice. There's nothing that they can do. They're gonna die, and that's just how life is. And that kind of fuels her anger and hate towards the forest. She doesn't really care. So she's going to use the mountain to mine this ore and, make money and do these trades and do everything she can for her people. And it's kind of the same as the Boers, right? Like, they're going to go kill a bunch of people.
Yeah,
so they can,
it just makes me think. It's like everything that even with what Ian was saying. It's just as things get worse and worse and worse every day. It's almost like it comes to the point where it's like, well, everything's going to shit. So I'm just going to protect my little corner of things here and just help my little group survive. That's what I felt like.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So maybe that's what that was supposed to be. I don't know. What do you think, Emily?
Well, I hope that like the opportunity to rebuild again, like that she'll remember the past and know that like what she's like her past behavior, the structure, everything was not harmonious. But she also lost an arm, so I hope like she can't forget that. So
A lot of Star Wars parallels in this movie.
I know, eh?
yeah.
Which one came first? No, I think these are also parallels in mythology throughout the world, right?
And there seems to be, in terms of Miyazaki himself, there are a lot of reoccurring themes in his films as pertains to the supernatural.
Sure.
Gods being mortal. You can kill a god. They're just more powerful. And gods can be hurt. Sometimes gods die. Sometimes they just go extinct. They disappear. So in that sense, there's a calculated reason behind everything that she's doing, but it's not evil. It's just pragmatic.
Right.
These gods are in my way. I need to get at the ore in this mountain so that my people can make money and live. So I can continue to feed the lepers. So I can continue to employ these people.
Right.
Not only that, but she's also doing it to protect herself from other humans. Like there's the other the other group of people that are invading while she's off trying to kill this forest god, and she has to kind of decide what is more important at the time, and she doesn't know who to believe, and she can't trust even any of the other humans around her. Like she doesn't know if what he's saying if what he's saying is true, right?
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah.
Life is rarely as cut and dry.
So
Life is as movies, like
right.
or
So, well, the thing is, so the morality in this film and all of his films is very complex. So, how old were you when you first saw this film?
Oh, I was in high school, so I was probably 13, 14. Yeah.
Emily, how old were you?
I think around the same, maybe like 15.
So, this is something that teenagers can handle
Yeah.
and enjoy, right?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so.
It's definitely a lot of Ghibli movies have this kind of lighter tone to it with these darker themes. This one is pretty upfront about being brutal and real,
Sure.
and doesn't kind of shy away from being dark and telling this story. And I think it's important.
And I saw Akira when I was the same age, grade 9, 13, 14. I was fine with it. I loved it. I mean, it blew my mind. But I was never put off by the graphic violence and gore. I just thought it was great.
Yeah. That is not why you watch the movie though. Like it's not for that, right? Like but it also doesn't take away from it. Like it adds so much.
and it's never done for sensationalist reasons,
Right.
either, which is something that we see so often in North American media.
Right.
It's just violence for the sake of violence. Every violent act that happens in these films happens for a reason.
Right. So here's the thing. Look, if you want to give a message to studio executives, we do movie night every week. And whenever we do a studio, what is it?
Studio Ghibli, yeah.
We break records every time.
Yeah.
More people come out for these movies than any other mainstream Hollywood movies. So when they complain that no one goes to the movies anymore and Hollywood is all sequels and remakes and reboots, should they be showing more of these films, do you think, in theaters? Like if they played this at like Cineplex Odeon, would you go see it?
Well, I love the intimacy of this vibe. So that's why I like this. But I probably would too, because like the big screen like really captures the artistry of like every detail. Like I was amazed to even hear, because I usually see it on my little laptop,
Right.
So
Yeah, and I think just last year a new Ghibli movie came out.
That's
and
right.
I think maybe played it here for 2 days, and I was away for the weekend, so I couldn't. I didn't even catch it.
I know.
You know?
And what's more, they didn't offer it subtitled in Windsor at all.
It was only
Only
It was
dubbed.
only dubbed. If you wanted to
Interesting.
see it with subtitles, you had to go to Detroit for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's what's frustrating. I mean, I don't have access to the numbers, but I remember everyone remembers Drive with Ryan Gosling, right? Great movie. And then the follow-up to that with
Drive 2.
Yeah, Drive 2, Drive Harder. No, it was Nicholas Winding Refn's follow-up with Ryan Gosling, Only God Forgives. They didn't even play it in Windsor. Like this film,
it's nuts.
like Drive was a huge hit, and then the follow-up comes out. They don't even play it. So we had to drive to Michigan to see this movie. But I bet you that weekend, whatever was playing in Cineplex Odeon, there was probably 5 movies that we've never heard of that they had to have on screen that day, right? That no one cares about.
Well, I mean, like, isn't the live action Lion King still in theaters?
Probably,
Like,
yeah,
For 4
probably.
months it's been playing?
Yeah. So, Princess Mononoke is the 5th highest grossing movie in Japan
Ever.
ever. The first highest grossing is Demon Slayer, which is a movie based off of an anime.
Okay. Never seen that.
Spirited Away is number 2, which we
Never heard of it.
Your Name, which we also
Awesome.
watched here.
Yeah, we saw
number
that.
3. Number 4 is a One Piece film.
Okay.
So another manga turned anime
Wow,
turned
that's amazing.
movie. Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle.
Did you know that
some other
there's
ones.
almost no street crime in Japan? Only 5 gun deaths per year. I think there's a tie-in here. I think it's
Could be.
because
Could be.
anime is so popular there. That's my theory. Anyway, okay, so
Could be gun laws.
Yeah, what's that?
Could be gun laws.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Well, when you don't have guns to play
yeah.
with, you just start drawing. Next thing
Exactly.
you know, you're animating for
you got
Studio Ghibli.
pens to play with.
Yeah.
What's that?
pens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can kill someone with a pen, though.
Coincidentally, pen deaths are high
And
in Japan.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. So anyway, I'm guaranteed we're going to be showing another one of these eventually, right? Soon-ish. We might slide in an American animated film before then.
Are there any
right?
of those?
Huh?
Are there any of those?
There's a few. There's
Yeah.
a few.
All right. What would you're an animator?
Yeah.
What would you?
Transformers.
Well, I mean, no,
Go ahead, Josh,
Transformers
give
is
whatever
great.
answer
So
you
let's
want.
let's say in the last 20 years or so, a North American animated.
Genuinely,
20 years.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is absolutely fantastic.
It is good.
Okay.
It is good.
I think that even as a non-comic book fan, if that's your first Spider-Man movie, I don't think it matters. I think that WALL-E is
Yeah, that was good.
really
That was good.
very, very good.
That's CGI though, right?
It's animated.
But
You're going for-
I'm
you're
talking
saying
more like
hand-drawn.
hand-drawn,
Hand-drawn.
They barely
Yeah,
make
they're not
or
really-
something in the style. Excuse me, of hand-drawn animation.
They're not really made anymore. I mean,
Oh, I have one. Robot Dreams.
Never even heard of it.
Robot Dreams. It came out a year ago based on a graphic novel. It was nominated for Best Animated Feature, and it's really, really good.
Robot Dreams.
Yeah,
very
and,
indie,
and
like-
I'm sure that it's
yeah.
computer assisted, but it looks hand drawn. So I recommend it if you're watching this. Definitely,
Okay.
it's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see the top 5 Japanese films of all time being
Anime.
hand-drawn animation or something in the style of hand-drawn animation, and we don't have any of that. Nothing like
Not
that to
anymore,
answer
no.
it.
It is weird. You're right because we don't. It's like they don't even make them here. That's what's
Like,
crazy.
Why don't you try?
Because
Yeah.
it's money.
You're right.
It's because it's cheaper to do things 3D animation, right? It's,
Okay,
it's
but
faster.
but they will also spend $200 million on a piece of shit movie without a second thought. And like, okay, here's $50 million to you. Here's $50 million to you. And the movie sucked. We'll just spend that again next week.
because they make the money back, right?
Not always,
in
though.
animation, I think for the most part they do.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm saying like I don't get their. I'm saying in America they'll blow money on shit, and then it won't make money, but they'll keep doubling down. Like let's make another one. Let's make another one. But these movies you're talking about, they all make movie in Japan.
Yeah.
Or they make money in Japan. I don't know. I mean, obviously,
They make money here too.
yeah,
We had 35 people out for this one tonight.
yeah. Was it 35?
yeah.
I don't know. I'm just. It
I think
looked
was
like a
27, but still. But still,
far
that's a
off,
world record. That's a world record. for
World
here.
record, yeah.
For Meteor, it's a world record. Okay, so every week we watch movies at Meteor. Next week we've got.
Being John Malkovich,
Yes.
starring John Malkovich.
That's right. The week after that we've got
What's after that?
Never Ending Story.
Never Ending Story.
Yeah,
so
very
be
excited
sure to
for
come
that.
out for that and every other week at Meteor. It's all good. It's all fun. All the movies are good, even if they suck. The conversation's good, right? We want to thank Emily for joining us. We'll be sure to have you back again if you're interested. If there's ever a movie you want to review with us, feel free to join us, please.
Probably another Studio Ghibli would be fine with me. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
I'm sure there's more
and
coming.
when's the
More
next
coming.
Toast Open Mic Poetry? When's the next one?
Oh, well, Toast Open Mic Poetry is usually the third Thursday of every month, February
So not on a
20th.
Wednesday? So you can do both? You can come to Wednesdays?
Yeah,
and then you can
exactly.
go to
That's why
poetry?
I'm here.
Oh, all right. Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent.
But February 20th at Fogheads,
Never heard of it.
formerly known as Fog. Yeah,
I think I've heard of that.
same place.
Excellent.
For
Okay.
now.
For now? Okay, and then it might move eventually?
But yeah, I'll come back and announce a new location, guys.
Perfect.
Perfect.
There you go. And Josh, where can everybody find our episodes?
You can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. You can also find the video format versions of our episodes on our YouTube channel. So drop us a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about Princess Mononoke. And what's your favorite Studio Ghibli movie? I want to hear about that.
All right. Till next time. See you later.